Breaking news. Your dream life isn't going to happen because you made a vision board. You're gonna need goals, grit, and some woo-woo shit. This podcast is about getting clarity on what you want, having the grit to do the actual work, and most importantly, constantly training your brain to be your bitch. Ready to be inspired? Here is your host, best-selling author, Oonagh Duncan.
Hey, welcome to the show. This is your host, Oonagh Duncan. And if you are new here and we're just meeting, I am the author of the best-selling book, Healthy as Fuck, and the CEO of Fit Feels Good, where we help women in their 40s and 50s get in the best shape of their lives. On this podcast, we don't just talk about fitness, though. We talk about how to achieve your goals in any area of your life, how to have the grit to push through the obstacles on the way to your goals, and all that woo-woo mindset stuff that is really kind of the key to making it all happen. Today, I am going to introduce you to a concept that is going to help you get unstuck and gain momentum towards whatever goal you are trying to achieve now. I'm going to prove to you that your thoughts are actually creating your reality, and not even just in a woo-woo manifesty kind of way, although maybe that too, but also in a really grounded, logical, show me the freaking clear cause and effect kind of way. This idea that your thoughts are creating your reality is as old as at least the 1st century AD. And books about it started to really pop up around the turn of the 20th century, like William Walker Atkinson's 1907 book called Thinking Vibration and the Law of Attraction in the Thought World. But like many Gen Xers, my first big dive into this idea that my thoughts can manifest reality was Rhonda Byrne's movie, The Secret. So can I just tell you how I was introduced to The Secret? Because I swear it is like a scene out of a cheesy 80s movie. So my friend Meg and I we're in our early 20s. It's the early aughts. You know, like right now I'm like Sylvia and Golden Girls. Picture it. Sicily, 1922. Anyway, so Meg and I went to the video store to rent something on a Friday night. And it was a discount video store. It wasn't like a Blockbuster with like nice lighting and 30 copies of the latest release on the wall. And you could, buy microwave popcorn at the till. It was like a basement with just a bunch of piles of old videos everywhere and tattered movie posters on the wall. And anyway, remember what it was like going to the video store and sometimes you just couldn't find the right thing. So you're kind of like wandering around and occasionally you present the person you're with a video case and they're like, no, I just saw Batman or whatever. Kind of like now when you spend all of your TV time trying to get the whole family to agree on whatever to watch on Netflix. Anyway, so Meg and I are rooting through all these big piles of movies and kind of just not feeling any of it. And the guy behind the counter, who is this older Indian man, goes, "Psst, girls, come here. I want to show you something." I swear, it was just like in Sesame Street when the Muppet with the trench coat is like, "Psst, you want to buy the letter B?" And then Ernie's like, "The letter B?" And the trench coat guy's like, "Shh, right." And Ernie's like, "Well, why would I want to buy the letter B?" And then the guy goes, "Because without the letter B, you can't have bananas or boats." I'll spare you the rest of the skit. Actually, I once saw a documentary about Sesame Street and how it was designed to reflect the real world of inner city kids with, for example, playing on the street and garbage cans and garbage on the street. And I have always thought about Trenchcoat Muppet and how I guess he was supposed to reflect drug deals that the kids would see, which is darker than I gathered when I was first learning about the letter B. Anyway, so I mentioned Trenchcoat Muppet because this had the exact same vibe. The video store guy was like, "Psst, I got something for you." And I mentioned that he was Indian because it was just like the movie cliche where the exotic person from the East introduces the, let's fucking face it, white hero to some mystic drug or martial art or whatever that makes them save the world. Anyway, so he pulls out a pirated copy of The Secret from behind the counter and he tells us to just trust him and go home and watch it. So we did. And then, of course, Meg and I went on to manifest boyfriends and $1 million careers. And the next time we went back to the store was gone. Had it ever been there? No, I'm fucking lying about all of that. But it did spark a curiosity in the law of attraction, which I have found enormously beneficial in my life. The law of attraction is the idea that your thoughts, or more specifically your feelings, radiate a vibration that attracts more of that energy. So it's like if you're walking around being like, oh, I'm so wealthy. Look at how everything I touch turns to gold. I just love being so rich. This is so fun, having all the money I could ever want. And then the universe goes, okay, I guess she's rich. Let's send more money her way. And then in the woo-woo community, there's always a story about how someone just finishes their money manifesting meditation. And then, a check comes in the mail because the government just realized that you paid too many taxes in 2012 or whatever. I think that's fun, but I actually don't need this whole process to be a magical, universal rearranging of the cosmos for me to get into it. Like in this secret, I think if I'm remembering this correctly, they actually show a little boy thinking about a bike. And he wants a bike, and you see the rays coming out of his head, and then the rays go to space, and then all the stars start swirling around. And then in soft focus, you see him opening the door one day, and there's the bike with the bow on it. I love the image of the stars swirling to accommodate my desires, but I actually don't need that to be true to understand that my thoughts and my feelings are 1,000% responsible for my results in a totally non-woo-woo practical way. And I'm going to show you how this is happening. And once you understand this, my friend, it is going to rock your fucking world. So to explain this, I'm going to use the model, which was popularized, not invented by, I don't think, but popularized by Brooke Castillo of the Life Coaching School, which is probably one of the biggest life coaching certifications. And just as an aside, you probably know that life coaching, like personal training and nutritionists, it's just a totally non-regulated industry. Anyone can call themselves a coach or a personal trainer or a nutritionist, and there's actually no authority that's going to make sure that any of those credentials are legit. And I'm not mentioning that to discredit people who have those professions, because that would include myself and many other people who are doing amazing work in the world. I'm just mentioning it as a little heads up that when it comes to those unregulated industries, you might want to pay less attention to their certification qualifications and more attention to the results that their clients are getting in the real world. Anyway, in this case, I think that the Life Coaching School is great, and the model in particular is brilliant. And I promise this is about to be one of your new favorite tools to coach your damn self, which is, by the way, a reference to episode 2, which you might want to check out if you haven't checked it out. Okay, so this self-coaching method, the model, has the acronym CTFAR, which stands for circumstance, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. So let's just start with the circumstance. This is a statement of whatever the situation is, okay? And this is something that is just a fact that could be proven in a court of law. And it's so important, dude, to take out any emotion out of it when you just describe the circumstance. So the circumstance is not like I'm getting fat. It's I have gained 40 pounds this year. The circumstance is not my business is failing. It's my business hasn't turned a profit for 2 months. The circumstance is not my partner doesn't find me attractive anymore. It's my partner has not initiated sex for a month or whatever. Now, if you've done any of my trainings before, I call this gathering the data, which is just uncovering the facts of the situation. And here's why it is so important to detach the actual data from our thoughts about it. Because otherwise, we think our thoughts are the fact, meaning that we believe that our thoughts are the infallible truth, which means we never question our thoughts. And if we never question our thoughts, we never change our result. And that's what you're going to understand in about a second. For now, just understand that the circumstance is just the facts that can be proven in a court of law. That is the C in CTFAR. So the T is your thoughts. And usually you're going to have a whole bunch of thoughts about the circumstance. For example, if the circumstance is you've gained 40 pounds this year, your thoughts might be things like, oh God, there must be something wrong with me, or God, nothing I do is working, or my metabolism is definitely broken, or God, I'm disgusting, or oh, this must be the menopause transition and it's all downhill from here. So when you get to the T, I want you to just brain dump all of those thoughts. Just get it out, get it out, get it out. And then I want you to pick the one that is going through your head all day freaking long about this situation. So if your business hasn't shown a profit in 2 months, maybe the thought that's going through your head is, my business is fucked. Or if your partner has stopped initiating sex, maybe it's my partner's having an affair. Or maybe if you've gained 40 pounds, maybe the thought is there's something wrong with me. And then once you've identified that main thought that you are having in relation to the circumstance, then you're going to ask yourself, how does that thought make me feel? So if you're walking around thinking, my business is fucked, you might feel panic. If you're walking around wondering if your partner's having an affair, you might feel suspicious or insecure. If you're walking around thinking, God, there's something wrong with me, you might feel sorry for yourself. And let's just hold up there, because if you are familiar with the law of attraction or the very obvious path that I'm on here, you're probably thinking, oh, alert, bad, don't feel sorry for yourself. You'll just attract more things to be pitied about. Don't put those vibes out to the universe. Danger. Okay. Here's where people can spin out into like meta shame. Like they hate their body and then they hate themselves for hating their body because they know they're supposed to love themselves. And then it's just like piling bad feelings on top of bad feelings. And dude, this obviously gets you fucking nowhere. When you're doing this exercise, I want you to understand the feelings are neutral. They're not good. They're not bad. They're just feelings. Okay. Nothing to blame yourself for, nothing to judge yourself for. Feelings are not bad. Which reminds me of this funny reel that I saw once about gentle parenting. Oh God, I wish I could find this so that I could give the creator credit because it's really funny. But the premise was, what if we used gentle parenting with our spouses, with our partners? So for example, it showed a woman, finishing her makeup, and then she stands up and she goes, okay, I'm ready to go. And then her husband comes along and looks at the makeup and goes, how about we clean up this mess before we move on to the next activity? And then another one, the husband gets cut off in traffic and, yells at the other driver. And the wife goes, it's okay to be angry. The feelings are okay. It's not okay to yell though. So just to gentle parent you for a second, your feelings are okay. And they're totally understandable. If you have the thought that your partner is having an affair and that thought's going through your head all day long, of course you're going to feel insecure. That makes total sense. If you have the thought that you are disgusting, that your body is disgusting, of course you're going to feel shame. So if you're going through this CTFAR process, try to park any judgment you are having about your feelings. It's not like the universe is going to hear your feelings and then send a shitstorm of additional bad feelings your way. It's not the way this works, which is why when I tell my clients to gather the data, I want you to just put on your detached, curious scientist hat or robe or whatever the fuck scientists wear and just get curious. Look how fascinating I am, having all these thoughts and feelings. I wonder what's going to happen next. So here's what's going to happen next. You have C, circumstance, T, thoughts, F, feelings, and now A, action. When you are feeling these feelings, how do you act? What are the actions that you take in that emotional state? When you're feeling panicky about your business, what are the actions you take? Well, you might freak out, or you might overinvest in a coach who promises to turn it all around for you. You might cut your prices in hopes that it'll drum up sales. You might overwork and burn yourself out and produce some new product that's kind of crappy. You might alienate current customers by cutting quality or services in order to save money, right? Which leads us to the R. What are the result of those actions? When your business hasn't turned a profit for 2 months, that's the circumstance, and your thought is, my business is fucked, and you feel panicky, and then your actions are you do all of that shit. The result is that your business won't show a profit for the next 2 months. The result will always match the circumstance until you change your thought, which will in turn change your feelings and therefore your actions. So let's do another one, because I know you probably don't believe me yet. Let's do another one. Circumstance. Your partner has not initiated sex for 2 months. Thought. They might be having an affair. Feeling. Suspicious and insecure. So when you have those feelings, what are your actions? Well, you probably question your partner about everywhere they're going. You might give off subtle kind of hostile vibes. You might guilt them about why don't you want to have sex with me anymore? Right? What are the results of that? Your partner loses that love and feeling, and maybe they do start to seek romance elsewhere. Maybe not, but do you see where I'm going with this? It's not that you had the thought that they were having an affair and therefore you manifested it. It's that you had the thought that they were having an affair, which gave you certain feelings. And those feelings made you act like a fucking psycho. And that's what created the affair, or at least the lack of sex initiation, which is the actual circumstance. Your thoughts create feelings that made you take actions that made your thoughts a self-fulfilling prophecy. So what about the one where you gained 40 pounds this year and your thought was, okay, there must be something wrong with me. And maybe that thought makes you feel sorry for yourself. What do you do when you feel sorry for yourself? Well, when most people are feeling sorry for themselves, they aren't particularly active. They aren't particularly solution focused. They will sometimes comfort eat or comfort drink. They'll almost always seek company in their misery. So they might go around telling everyone, I've got this weird malfunction. Oh my God, I've gained so much weight. You don't believe it. Or they might Googling for causes. And dude, if you Google any symptoms, you are definitely going to find an ailment that fits that bill. And when you do all of those actions, what's the result? Well, you are continually reinforcing that circumstance of a 40-pound weight gain. And now I can hear you thinking, oh, no, but Oonagh, you don't understand. I might be having some thoughts that aren't making me feel very good, but you better fucking believe I am taking all the action that I should to be getting a different result. For example, maybe the 40 pounds gives you the thought that there's something wrong with you, but maybe that feeling isn't self-pity. Maybe the feeling that gives you is fear or frustration. And so the actions are like, track all my food, start doing intense workouts. I follow anyone online who says they have a solution for biohacking and tracking your protein and dropping carbs and et cetera, et cetera. And it might seem like you're doing all of the things that you're supposed to do. But when you take all this frenetic action in a state of dysregulation would be the coaching term, or the woo-woo term would be out of an emotional alignment, then the results will pretty much always fucking backfire. Just like the person who's freaking out about the profit in their business. So they start throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to figure it out, and it just digs them more and more into a hole. Here's the other thing to consider. Imagine it did work. All that frenetic action that you took in a dysregulated state, in that emotion that didn't feel good, and you did all this action. Imagine you could think thoughts that make you feel like shit, and then you panic and you take some desperate action in that state. And oh, wow, your panicky action worked. You saved the business. Your partner got frisky again and you dropped the weight. And to maintain those results, you have to maintain those actions. And therefore, that emotional state that fueled that action. So great. You now live in the emotional state that makes you feel like shit. Is that a win? Like at the end of the day, who cares what result it is if you are living in an emotional state that feels bad? That's why I called my fitness company Fit Feels Good. Yes, of course it feels good to be fit, but also feeling good is the way by which you are going to get there. No one has ever hated themselves into a body that they love. No one has ever panicked themselves into a business that makes them feel calm. No one has ever been so insecure that they built a relationship that made them feel unconditionally loved. And sometimes I get pushback on this idea. Someone on Instagram once said to me, like, fuck you, David Goggins hated himself into a body that he loves. And if you don't know who David Goggins is, he is a retired American Navy SEAL who is also a renowned athlete, known especially for like super extreme ultra marathons in the desert, and he refuses to bring water or like whatever. I made that up, but you get the vibe. I learned about David through Jesse Itzler's very funny book, Living with a SEAL. So Jesse hired David Goggins to live with him for a month to toughen him up. And David made him sleep on a hard chair and run until Jesse's scrotum was bleeding with this chafing. And Jesse's like, dude, my balls are bleeding. And David's like, fuck your balls, Jesse. And later, when Jesse's limping around with muscle soreness, David says things like, you earn that pain, Jesse. You enjoy it. It's a really great book to listen to when you're working out because it's really funny. And also, it makes you realize that no matter how tough your workout is, you are so glad that David Goggins isn't there yelling at you, much less living in your house and watching you sleep in a kitchen chair. Anyway, in David's autobiography, which is called Can't Hurt Me, and it's great, he talks about a period of his life where he was out of shape, And he was so disgusted with himself that he made himself go do 100 pull-ups until he died. And then he did it the next day or something like that. I'm making that up, but you get the vibe again. And that's why bros like to come to me with examples like David Goggins when I'm all, la, 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 you need to feel good in order to create the results you want. But here's the thing. I think that, yeah, David Goggins probably did have some feelings of disgust. And that's okay. That's okay, David. It's okay to feel disgust. It's just not okay to yell, fuck your balls. Just gentle parented David Goggins. But I think David's transformation was not because he hated himself. It's because he loved the vision of himself being a badass motherfucker. I mean, obviously, that thought and those feelings make him really keyed up because he centered his whole life around that badass feeling. It is the difference between running towards something with absolute glee and excitement and running away from something that's making you shit your pants. You know, I always say you can exercise because you're afraid of getting fat, or you can exercise because you were so fucking excited to get fit as hell. Guess which one works better? I think David Goggins is definitely the latter. It's the difference between Googling 40-pound weight gain, female 57 years old versus 57-year-old woman, amazing fitness transformation. Those two Google searches are going to create two entirely different realities for you. So how do you use the model, CTFAR? So the circumstance, it's a fact. You can change your thought about the circumstance and therefore change your whole fucking world. Because when you change your thought, you change your feelings, which change your actions, which change the result. So if the circumstance is you gained 40 pounds in the last year, instead of the thought that something must be wrong with you, and listen, dude, I know that thought, it feels true. Like, but like, come on, something must be wrong. I gained 40 pounds. But there's probably an equally true thought that doesn't provoke the same feelings. Something like, okay, it is time to prioritize my health above everything else. And when you have that thought, it maybe doesn't send you dancing in a field of wildflowers, but it probably doesn't make you feel sorry for yourself. It probably makes you feel determined, invigorated, maybe a bit excited to see what you can do. So here's what I want you to take away today. If you are stuck, here's the process. First, brain dump out all of the thoughts. This is just taking out the trash, just get it all down. And then I want you to pick the one thought that you have on repeat. And then I want you to reverse engineer and figure out what actually is the raw, unquestionable facts that is triggering that thought. All right. Then I want you to identify the feeling that that thought is making you have. Then I want you to write down the actions that you take when you're having that feeling. And you can always find that the result of those actions are going to match that circumstance every single time. And then I want you to go back and look at the circumstance, the raw data, and ask yourself, is there another thought that also feels true to me that also makes me feel a little bit better? And it's really important not to bullshit yourself here. Like, it's okay that I gained 40 pounds. It doesn't bother me, right? Or, oh, I'm sure that my business will be totally different next month. Let's just wait for next month, right? The new thought has to feel true. It has to feel true. And it doesn't have to feel amazing. It just has to feel like a little bit better. Because when you feel a little bit better, your actions are going to be a little bit better and you're going to get different results. And this is going to be a positive upward cycle versus the opposite, which is going to be a constant loop that goes around and around and around. And dude, I just want to say, I really salute you for doing the real work of even thinking about this stuff. Dude, so many people are walking around just executing that pattern over and over and over again. And it never occurs to them to even ask themselves, are these thoughts making me feel good? Are these thoughts getting me the results that I want in my life? You are not that person. And I just want to extend my respect to you for that. And by the way, if you know of anyone who would find this episode interesting, please share it with them. And as always, if you have any feedback about the show, I would love to hear it. So reach out on Instagram at Oonagh Duncan or via email at info@fitfeelsgood.com. I'll look forward to hearing your thoughts. Until next week.
Hey dude, thanks for listening. If you like this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you can get the next one. And by the way, if you rate and review this podcast, it really helps me get found by other people who need some goals, grit, and some woo-woo shit. And be sure to connect and DM me at Oonagh Duncan on Instagram and let me know what you thought of the episode. Chat soon.